Leave the noise of the outside world behind, leave the anxieties of the day behind. I want to tell you something, a story. One of those stories that seems small from afar, but when you look closely, it's the size of the sky. It's a story about patience. But not the patience of waiting in a bread line, no. It's the patience of a lifetime. The story of a man named Jorge. Mr. Jorge. Seu Jorge was a good man. A man of integrity. One of those whose handshake was worth more than a signed contract. He had a wife, Dona Elza, a woman of silent and strong faith, who was his foundation. And Seu Jorge had a request, a single request he made to God every day for 25 years. He asked for a job. But no, mind you, not just any job. Seu Jorge was a master. An old-school lathe operator, the kind who could hear metal, who knew the language of machines. He took immense pride in his profession. But the world changed. Factories closed, technology advanced, and Seu Jorge, with his knowledge that now seemed obsolete, was left behind. 25 years. Can you imagine what that's like? It's been over 9,000 days. 9,000 mornings waking before the sun, the smell of weak coffee in the kitchen, the heavy silence between him and Dona Elza. A silence that wasn't from a lack of love, but from a lack of words. What could he say? He got ready. He put on the same shirt, neatly ironed. He grabbed his documents, his worn work permit, its pages yellowed with age, and left. He walked. He walked miles to save bus fare. He handed out resumes he knew no one would read. He heard that no's. You don't have the profile. We're looking for someone more up to date. You have a lot of experience for this position. They were no's of all kinds. The pain, my daughter, my son, the pain wasn't just the refrigerator not being as full as he'd like. It wasn't just the shoe with the worn sole that he repaired himself. The pain, the deepest pain, was that of purpose. It was sitting at the table and feeling useless. It was watching the years pass, his hair turning gray, and carrying the weight of a talent God gave him, and that the world seemed to not want. He prayed. Oh, how he prayed. On his knees, on the cold living room floor, in the wee hours of the morning. Lord, how long? I only want bread, the bread earned with my sweat. I only want the dignity, to use the gift you gave me. And for 25 years, the answer was silence. A silence that, to many, would seem like abandonment. Seu Jorge's faith was tired, wounded. And he, at that point, after a quarter of a century, he was very, very close to giving up. What else could God be waiting for? What hadn't he yet understood? And the days turned into weeks. The weeks into months. The months into 25 years. Seu Jorge's desert crossing seemed endless. He watched the world change through the window of his small house. He saw the arrival of the internet, of cell phones. He watched his neighbors' grandchildren grow up, graduate, and he was still there. Stuck on that day he lost his factory floor. To survive, oh, he would. He did odd jobs. He fixed a gate here, a leaky faucet there. He painted a wall. They were small jobs that paid enough for rice and beans. But every time he picked up a tool that wasn't his own, his lathe operator's heart ached. He was like a brilliant violinist, forced to play the drum. Poor Dona Elza, she worked miracles. What little he brought, she multiplied. Her dress was already colorless, from so much washing. But her smile, she wouldn't let it fade. At least, not in front of him. But at night, how many times had Seu Jorge pretended to sleep, while listening to her muffled crying into the pillow beside him? It was the doubts that visited him in the darkness. Did I ask wrongly, my God? Could it be that I don't deserve it? Could it be that my time has simply passed? He went to church. He sang the hymns, but his voice was weak. He saw people testifying miracles of healing, of deliverance, and deep in his heart, a bitter question grew: what about me, Lord? Have you forgotten my job? He no longer had anger, nor frustration. What he had was weariness. A weariness of soul. A weariness of waiting. His Bible, on the page of Psalm 40. I waited patiently for the Lord, and he inclined to me. The page was worn, thin, almost transparent. It bore the marks of his tears. 25 years is enough time for a man to learn to live with resignation. He began to accept it. Maybe this was his story. The story of a good man who prayed and was not answered. He was getting used to the idea that his gift would die with him. And this was the true death. And then, on a Tuesday, a gray Tuesday, just like all the other 9,000 Tuesdays, he went out for another side job. To straighten a shelf. His heart heavy, his feet dragging, not knowing that this was no ordinary Tuesday. He finished the small repairs. The money he received barely covered the electricity bill due the next day. Jorge pocketed the few bills and decided to walk back. The afternoon air was heavy. A cold wind heralded a rain that wouldn't come. He walked through the square. An old square with peeling wooden benches and old trees. He was distracted, lost in thought, wondering about what Dona Elsa would make for dinner, thinking about nothing. And that's when he saw it. There, under a bench, half hidden by the dry leaves that the wind had blown up, he saw it. A wallet. Leather. Black. A thick wallet. It looked full. Jorge's heart raced. He looked around. The square was almost deserted. A lady walking a dog in the distance. A group of young people laughing further ahead. No one. He approached. He bent down, his knee creaking. He picked up the wallet. The leather was soft. A good thing. He felt the weight of it in his hand. And the first thing that came to mind was the electricity bill. It was the gas cylinder that was running low. It was Dona Elsa's blood pressure medication. He opened it, his fingers trembling. And there it was. A sum of money he hadn't seen in years. Large bills. Lots of them. For a second, a terrible second, the devil whispered in his ear. This is your answer. God took his time, but he sent it. But Jorge was Jorge. He might be broke, but he wasn't corrupt. He took a deep breath and looked in the other compartments. Documents. A driver's license. And there was a man's face. A man in his 60s, tired but kind eyes. His name was Renato Diaz. There were also credit cards and a business card. Renato Diaz. Director. Fundação e Usinagem Diasulta. And an address. An address on the other side of town. Jorge closed his wallet. His heart was still pounding, but no longer from temptation. It was pounding from something else. Something strange. A disturbance. He didn't know that man. He didn't know that company. But why him? Why was it that he, who had prayed for so long for money, had found this? He felt it wasn't hope yet. It was a chill. A feeling that wallet wasn't just a wallet. He put the object in his pocket, feeling the strange bulge against his leg, and knew what he had to do. But he didn't know, not even remotely, where that address would lead him. The next day, Jorge woke up different. He took the bus fare, the money he barely had, and told Dona Elsa, "Woman, I need to go downtown. Return something." She looked at him, saw the seriousness in his eyes, and simply said, "Godspeed, old man." Godspeed. He caught the bus. The journey was long. The bus swayed, and with each stop, Seu Jorge's anxiety grew. He ended up in an industrial neighborhood. An old neighborhood, one he hadn't visited in decades. Cobblestone streets, high walls, the smell of oil and metal in the air. A smell that he knew. A smell that made him miss it. He got off in front of the address on the card. It wasn't a modern, glass building. It was an old factory. Red brick, with a large iron gate, painted blue. And on the wall, in slightly rusted metal letters, was the name, Fundação e Usinagem de Isolta. Jorge stopped. He knew that place. No. It couldn't be. He had been there, once. Over 25 years ago. He had auditioned for a position. A position that he hadn't gotten. The company, he thought, had closed. Bankrupt. Like so many others. He pushed open the small side gate. It was open. He entered a courtyard, and then a small reception area. A simple room, with plastic chairs, and a young woman behind a glass counter. "Good morning. I would like to speak with Mr. Renato Diaz." The woman looked him up and down. "He's in a meeting." "What's it about?" Jorge, with all his dignity, simply placed the black wallet on the counter. I think this is his. I found it." The woman's eyes widened. "My God. You, wait a minute. Just a minute." She disappeared through a door. Jorge stood there, standing. His heart in his mouth. The smell of that place, the sound, in the distance, the muffled sound of a machine, a lathe, it transported him. He looked at the reception wall. And there was a photo. An old photo, in black and white. A group of men, in front of the factory. All in overalls. And he recognized a face. A younger face, but unmistakable. It was his father. Seu Jorge's father. He had worked there. All his life. Seu Jorge had forgotten. In his youth, he had tried to get in there, to follow in his father's footsteps, but had been rejected. And now, 25 years later, he was there, with the owner's wallet, on the counter. The pieces, they were moving. One, a gear, that had been stocked for a quarter of a century, had just turned. He heard footsteps, and the door opened. A man, the man from the wallet photo, appeared. Mr. Renato. He looked agitated. Tired. But when he saw Mr. Jorge, and the wallet in his hand, his eyes filled with immense relief. My lord, you found it." He took the wallet, opened it, checked it, and looked at Mr. Jorge. I don't even know what to say. You have no idea what you did for me." Mr. Jorge, with his calm, just shook his head. "I only did what was right, doctor." "Doctor, no. Just Renato. Please, come in. Have a seat." He led him to an office, plain. Filled with papers, with projects, with the smell of work. "Mr. Jorge. My name is Jorge. Mr. Jorge, would you like a coffee?" "Mr. I need to give you something to pay. Please." And Mr. Jorge looked that man in the eye and said, "Mr. Renato, the only payment I accept is my clear conscience. I've been unemployed for a long time. But I'm not that desperate." The honesty, the dignity, in those words, silenced Mr. Renato for a moment. He looked at Seu Jorge, really. He saw his hands, calloused. He saw his clothes, simple but clean. He saw his eyes, tired but steady. Unemployed, you said? You do, what, SEU Jorge? And there. SEU Jorge told him. I'm a lathe operator. By training. From Sinai. A good one. But it's been 25 years since I haven't worked in my field. The world has changed. Renato went pale. He didn't blink. He stood, walked over to a filing cabinet. An old, metal cabinet. Green. He pulled out a drawer that creaked. The drawer. Candidates. 1990 to 2000, he began leafing through folders, yellowed. The smell of old paper filled the room. Jorge. Jorge of what? He asked, without turning around. Jorge. Last name. Renato stopped. He pulled out a card. A single card, held together by a rusty paperclip. He turned, and his eyes were welling up. Jorge. Last name. Son of. Jorge's father's name. Mr. Jorge didn't understand. Yes, it's me. I took a test here 25 years ago. But I didn't pass. And Mr. Renato, his voice breaking, said, "No, Mr. Jorge, you passed. You were first on the list. But a week after you took the test, my father passed away. We almost went bankrupt. We had to close 90% of the factory. I kept this card. I promised my father that the day I could get this back on its feet, I would call his son the best employee he ever had. Your father." Mr. Jorge felt his legs weaken. The tears he'd held back for 25 years fell. But why now? And Renato said, "Mr. Jorge, I've been looking for 6 months for a teacher. Someone who knows how to operate the ancient machines that are the heart of this company. No one else knows. No one else has your training. I was desperate. Yesterday, I lost my wallet. And I asked God. I asked God to send me a sign. To send me an honest man. A good man. And then, the silence. That silence that was no longer of pain. It was the silence of a miracle. Mr. Jorge, your prayer took 25 years. Mine took 1 day. God used a lost wallet to answer both of us. Your job is here, waiting for you, for 25 years. Will you accept? My son, my daughter, can you feel the weight of this moment? The weight of 25 years of silence being broken, not with a clack of thunder, but with the click of an old metal drawer. The story of SEU Jorge, it's not about a man who found a wallet. It's about a God who never lost a resume. SEU Jorge's request was not ignored. It was not denied. It was filed away. Stored in God's drawer for the right time. Think about it. What if SEU Jorge had gotten a job 10 years ago? He would have become, maybe, a salesman. A doorman. He would have settled. And his gift as a master lathe operator, would have been lost. What if Mr. Renato hadn't lost his license? He might have hired someone. SOSO and his father's company might not survive. That no SEU Jorge heard for 9,000 days wasn't a rejection. It was a wait. It was God aligning things. It was God waiting for the company to get back on its feet, waiting for the right position to open up, the position that wasn't there. Any vacancy was a vacancy. the vacancy that had his name written on it a quarter of a century ago. Sometimes, my people, we pray, and we want the answer in our own time. We want the microwave, and God is working in the wood-fired oven. He's preparing not a quick snack, but a feast. The delay. God's delay isn't carelessness. It's care. It's preparation. SEU Jorge prayed for a job, and God was preparing his destiny. He was saving the inheritance from his father for him. And what did he use? A lost wallet. A walk through a park. An act of honesty. I want you to think about your lives. Now, what is the prayer that you think has been forgotten? What is your 25 years? What is the talent that you think God gave you that the world seems to miss? Maybe your record is stored in God's drawer. And He is just waiting for the right moment, the right Mr. Renato, the right lost wallet to make the miracle happen. It's not about what you lost, it's about what God has in store for you. I really want to know your story. What is the request that you're waiting for patiently in the Lord? Tell me here in the comments. I want to read. I want to pray with you. Let's transform this space into a great wall of faith, a place where we wait together. And if this story of SEU Jorge touched your heart, leave your amen. Leave your like so this message reaches someone else who is tired of waiting. And subscribe here in our little corner so we can continue telling these stories that remind us that God is never late. Be at peace and wait, because His timing is perfect.